Welcome to another episode of the Tobago House of Assembly's Post-Executive Council Media Briefing. This week, the Secretary of Infrastructure, Quarries and the Environment, Kwesi Devines, addresses the media.
We have seen a reduction in about $32 million in the Division of Infrastructure. And as I would have said at the session on Tuesday evening, this is basically equivalent to about 8 months' salary for URP based on the last fiscal year. So URP in itself was allocated $18 million when the salaries alone in URP are about $48 million. And we have approximately 1,700 employees in the URP program currently. So it begs the question, where do we go from here, obviously? And I must commend the Chief Secretary because in advance, before the reading of the budget, we have been going through several scenarios in the division, looking critically at our recurrent expenditure, the URP program and our development program to see how we can maximize whatever resources we have, given that we anticipated anywhere between a 5 to even 15% cut. So we have done several scenarios in anticipation of the budget being read. So it did not take us completely by surprise. So in terms of URP, we would have already ensured that an operations audit of URP was conducted so that we can start getting into the finer details as to how we can ensure we get bang for buck on programs at the URP. We have also looked at the development program critically, and we continue to do so. There are 1,028 workers in the development program. And although there's an increase in the allocation under the development program, we still have spent quite a large sum on salaries and wages. And as I would have indicated on Tuesday, the challenge that the division has found itself in the last fiscal year is that based on the allocation and based on how allocations are released, we found our votes were in the red quite often because we have a hefty wage bill in the development program. And of course, you're well aware that the Prime Minister has decreed that there will be no sending home of workers until the end of the year. But beyond that, and more importantly, the Chief Secretary has given his commitment that we will maintain levels of employment as far as possible. And we are working very assiduously to do that. And it means that we have to be innovative and creative and find ways to ensure that we are able to get materials and equipment for our work to be done, while at the same time ensuring that we are paying workers and paying them on time. So, as I would have indicated on Tuesday again, we have already gone about procuring a large sum of concrete in advance so that we can ensure that our development program and some of our maintenance work can continue. So, and we have also prioritized some of the ongoing development projects. So Charlottesville and Delaford are getting first priority, as the case might be. I have mandated that we ensure that we finish both projects by the end of the year. Both are significant retaining wall projects, and I'm keeping a very close eye on the progress there. Yes, we are well into the rainy season and in some realms the hurricane season, but we have to ensure that we get productivity, and it means that whenever we get a good day, we have to ensure that we are driving a lot of work. We have looked at our rent and lease program, and we're seeing that we have spent quite a significant sum in that program, and we are currently reevaluating completely the way that we rent equipment to use at the division. We are definitely optimizing going forward because this is one of those areas that we recognize is definitely a place that we can get some savings, some cost savings. And I must commend some of the URP workers and even in the development teams, but more principally URP, because what has been happening in the absence of material, and there have been many requests to the division for assistance. URP, we were able to ensure that URP provides skilled labor to many Tobagonians, as long as they were able to provide material. So This is something that we are doing on a case-by-case basis. We have partnered with the Self-Help Commission to this regard. So there are some cases where homes have been lost due to fire. There may have been, might be a situation where there's some level of unfortunate financial circumstances, and the URP program has really stepped in to ensure that they could provide that kind of skilled labor to persons in Tobago, and I'm really proud about that. We are looking towards URP as well to start generating some revenue in the upcoming fiscal year, because we have a lot of skilled workers in the joinery section at Furniture Workshop. Some of our best joiners actually, I would almost say, hidden in that area, and we plan to ensure that we look critically at the operation to ensure that we get Tobagonians can yield the most benefit, and in particular the THA. So we're already looking at the schools. How do we get benches from the URP program, and how do you start training people, because URP really started off as a training program to provide some sort of relief to persons, and what it has become in some cases that some persons are using it as a second or even third income, and some persons who also have other THA jobs. And this is something that we are looking very closely at. And again, we're not sending home persons, but if persons continue with any dishonest ways, then they may find that they would have sent themselves home. And we really have to look at how can we manage these programs and get maximum benefits for the people of Tobago, because there are a lot of programs that we want to roll out in the new fiscal year. Of course, we know that the highway is a major bugbear, and we have been allocated $11 million to rehabilitate the highway. Now, this is after an initial engineer's estimate of $26 million. So, and that was for 2 kilometers, I should say, from the Rockley Vale traffic light to the Orange Hill traffic light. When we did our course in terms of milling the highway, in terms of rehabilitating, you will notice that there are some sunken spots, and we suspect that will be where there's water that is undermining the foundation of the highway, which generally speaking, the highway has held up pretty well considering the number of years it has been built. We have to do geotechnical surveys to ensure that we know exactly what we are doing and we do the right thing. So it's not just about filling back up the holes, as I've heard some people saying. So we're looking at milling, rehabilitating the foundation in some spaces, in some places, and then putting down the 2 layers required for the highway. And of course, because of the heavy use of the highway, the bitumen has to be of a certain standard, which is even better than most of the other standards for other roads. So one of the things that we definitely have to do, we have a lab at the Goldsboro facility, and we plan to get a lab back up to the optimal level. So we're doing a lot of work for that as well. And this will also lend itself to much of the other work, because that lab also does tests for the quarry when the quarry material comes out. So we are now going into resurfacing the runway. So that laboratory will be very instrumental in ensuring that the aggregate from the quarry meets and exceeds the standards that are necessary for both the highway and the runway works. Of course, speaking of the quarry, this afternoon at about 3 or 3:30 p.m., we are meeting with the President General of NUGFW and his team to finalize the memorandum of agreement so that we can move ahead to redeploy the workers of the Studley Park quarry. So again, no one will be losing a job. Everyone will be redeployed either to the original work center or different work center within the division. So far, there are 16 daily rated workers who were interviewed and were successful and will be offered contracts at the new Studley Park Enterprise Limited. And we really want to get that entity up and running. Remember, it's a THA entity, a state company, for want of a better term, 100% owned by the THA. That means 100% owned by the people of Tobago. So there's no privatization of the quarry. I've also mandated that we look seriously at export. So to that end, and those are part of the plans, they moved ahead. They being Studley Park Enterprise Limited has moved ahead to start working with NITCO and the Ministry of Works and Transport, their coastal management unit, to seriously survey the Barbados Bay area to look at where is the feasible place for a pier that we can use to start exporting aggregate. So the scientific surveys are being done. The consultations are being done with the members of the public as well, because I'm very wary and I'm very much a stickler for doing things the right way. And I believe that people should be given the opportunity, as long as there's any impact at all on their day-to-day life, to have a say in what is happening and for them to have all the information as well. So I want Tobagonians to know that we are not doing things ad hoc. It's not just throwing some boulders in the water and building a new jetty. The current jetty that is there is actually a danger to barges coming in, so that any loaded barge can tilt over or flip over, resulting in losses of material or even life. So we definitely don't want to go back to that location. So we're doing the necessary tests, scientific studies, wave height and so on, bathymetric studies, to ensure that we have the right location to put down a new jetty to start exporting. And we're looking at the highway projects in Trinidad, any runway works, and that's in Trinidad in the first instance. But I'll have you know that andesite is the second hardest material in the world, and that's the material that we have at the quarry. So it's actually a viable option to export to the rest of the Caribbean as well, because St. Lucia, one of our competitors, also does some exporting. And in the past in Trinidad, there would have been import from Nova Scotia. So could you imagine what potential there is for Tobago to generate revenue from the quarry? And I look forward to the the quarry being fully operationalized. So far, repair work has commenced. We've already fixed the crane that has been in disrepair for some 6 years or more, and that has been fixed. They're doing work has commenced on the Nordberg plant, so that is also partially operational as well. And the Cedar Rapids plant, that is also undergoing some repairs. So we are doing whatever work it takes to ensure that we have the kind of operation that Tobago will be proud about. I've also mandated the Stanley Park Enterprise Limited to proceed with tenders, because we recognize that given our current capacity, we see about 1.75 million metric tons, a deficit of that amount in terms of our production capacity at present. So we're putting a tender out for production-only enterprise to function on 1 acre of property on the quarry. This entity will produce aggregate only for supply only to Stanley Park Enterprise Limited. So it's a production-only operation. There will be no sales other than to the Stanley Park Enterprise Limited. Tenders are due to go out for that very soon, and we expect to see competitive bids coming in, because we understand the demand for the aggregate and the site, again, in the national context and even in the regional context. So we're really pleased that we could be making some progress, and we expect that by the end of today, and I'm hoping that by the end of today, given the nature of the negotiations, that we can have a signed memorandum of agreement so that workers can be redeployed from the Stanley Park quarry. Some of the key things under the memorandum, workers will receive a redeployment incentive so that they are not disadvantaged. We also agreed that they will be receiving the medicals as well, so that they can move on and continue to lead a quality life. And I'm really looking forward to these operations, because the Assembly has invested significantly in the quarry operations over the last several years. At one time, I think $100 million was pumped directly into the quarry for the purchase of new equipment. In terms of licensing, I know that everyone is very keen to hear what is happening. Along with the Chief Secretary and the project management team from EIDCOT, we would have made a site visit to the Milsherv building where licensing will be relocated to. There were some concerns that we would have expressed, and we expect that they would be addressed, because we take this business very seriously, because licensing will be servicing the public and we want to ensure that the public is comfortable using the facility. We have been given all assurances that our timelines will still be met, so we are still looking for the occupation of the Millshave building by licensing by early November, and I really look forward to that, because for too long Tobagonians have been going through the experience, or the unfortunate experience, of only being limited to doing business at licensing office before 12. I must commend, however, the Assistant Transportation Commissioner, Mr. Mohammed, because they would have ensured an increased level of productivity at the licensing department, and I would have seen comments of persons on social media and otherwise saying that they have seen a change in the way business is being done at the licensing department, and I must commend them. We would have done some customer service training as well with the employees already. So we are preparing them for that move where they'll be working for the entire day. And we are looking at, in the short run, the inspection pit will remain in Shaw Park, in the Shaw Park area. However, we are moving towards moving that operation as well, so that it will be more or less a one-stop shop in the Millshave area. So we are moving very swiftly towards that. The Chief Secretary is very adamant that this has to happen, and as such we have been putting pressure on the project managers, EACOT, who have responded in kind to put pressure on the service providers. So we look forward to the public being able to interface with the licensing full day at Millshave in November. Other key projects of the divisions that have been going on, of course, the Lambo Bridge and the Roxborough Administrative Complex. We know that the stud was turned to the administrative complex, so work has begun, and we expect that that would last approximately 18 months. In terms of the Lambo Bridge, we are still pushing for an early February completion date. As a matter of fact, the contractor is saying that we may be able to deliver even earlier in January. So we are trying to push for that, because again, we are looking at the reality is the number of motor cars in Tobago has exploded. And of course, our roadways have been feeling the burden, and just recently there was an accident on the highway and we saw what effect that had. So we know that we are moving swiftly to ensure that the Milford Road is a reliable alternative route to the highway. So it means that in the upcoming fiscal, we'll be seriously looking at the Thompson River Bridge, and then afterwards the Lambo River Bridge as major projects for us to undertake. Of course, these are all at a significant cost. I believe Lambo River is $18 million and Thompson River approximately $22 million. So we are moving towards identifying the funding or funding regimes that we can use to ensure that we can get these things delivered and delivered on time. In terms of the environment, the Assembly would have approved the formation of the Northeast Protected Areas Management Trust, and this seeks to have a new management approach to our protected areas in Northeast Tobago, inclusive of the Main Ridge Forest Reserve. We're using an all-hands-on-deck approach, so it's multi-stakeholders. We're looking at the NGOs, and very often we have to keep in mind that there are three sectors of society. We have the public sector, the private sector, and the civil society. And this approach to the Northeast Protected Areas Management Trust ensures that we engage all three sectors of society in the management of our treasured possessions as an island, as Tobago. So we are looking at the Main Ridge Forest Reserve, of course, the islets of Little Tobago, Goat Island, St. Giles, and the proposed Northeast Marine Park as well. One of the mandates, two of the mandates of there will be an interim board assigned to the trust, and they will be putting together a business case and a business model for the operation of the Northeast Protected Area Management Trust. And this business model is focused on ensuring that the people who live in and around those protected areas are the beneficiaries of the activities, or any economic activities. And the second thing is that we will be moving ahead to have the area declared as a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and this will be a major accomplishment for Tobago, and as well as we drive towards bolstering our tourism product, particularly community tourism. So we do look forward to Tobagonians getting on board as we rally towards the establishment of our World Heritage Site here in Tobago. On the environment side as well, we are looking towards climate resilience. We've seen what has happened to our neighbors, and we've been working very closely with some of our neighbors getting food supplies out or supplies in general out. So I must commend all Tobagonians who have responded to the calls to help Dominica, Barbuda more specifically, and even some of the Dutch Isles that were affected by Hurricanes Irma and Maria. But as the saying goes, when your neighbor house on fire, wet your own. And the division is looking seriously at how we can build our resilience. Recently, a couple of weeks ago, the IDB, the Inter-American Development Bank, would have invited me to a Coastal Resilience Forum held in Nassau, Bahamas, where we were able to engage with some technocrats and some persons who are experienced in coastal resilience in particular, looking at solutions from gray to green. And I must say that there were a lot of lessons learned. One of the major thrusts of the division of the Assembly going forward is the establishment of a coastal zone management unit that will be guided by an integrated coastal zone management plan. We were able to get enough information to start putting together the building blocks for that integrated coastal zone management plan. So we can look forward in this coming fiscal for the establishment of that coastal zone unit. And of course, that integrated coastal zone management plan for Tobago, because we have 116 square miles of island paradise. And whether we still have it or not, we have to protect Tobago, and it comes from coastal defense as well. And it's not only about throwing up walls or boulders, but also about finding other mechanisms of protecting our coastlines, whether it be the rejuvenation of our reefs or whether it be the rejuvenation of our mangroves. And I must say that the Department of Environment has gone a long way in terms of our mangrove monitoring. They continue to monitor the mangroves. We have air quality tests going on, water quality tests going on, because we have to get serious about our environment. I would have said it many times already that we have to look at any infractions on our environment as serious as theft and murder, because you are stealing the beauty of our island and our competitive advantage, and you are murdering our environment, our Mother Nature. We're also moving towards increased waste oil management. Between 2013 to 2016, over 233,000 liters of waste oil was produced in Tobago, and most of that was dumped in Tobago in different places by the users themselves. So we're looking towards establishing a waste oil repurposing plant, and it's something that we're working very closely with the Basel Convention Regional Center to establish in Tobago. So we look forward to that in Tobago, because again, a lot of this waste oil, when disposed of incorrectly, leaks into our water tables, and it's something that we are taking very seriously, because water security, food security are paramount to the division. On a final note, in terms of our maintenance program in Tobago, for very long we've been focused on the development program, because those are where the big projects that get a lot of media attention take place. But that has led to us not focusing enough on our maintenance program. And what we have found, or what I have found, I should say, since I've gotten to the division, is that for too long we have the maintenance workers just there, and they aren't able to, or they are not, for whatever reasons, producing at the optimal capacity. So it means that our roads are in disrepair in some places, our drains are falling apart in some places. So it means that we have to now restructure and rethink the way that we approach our maintenance unit. As a matter of fact, I've asked the administrator to write to the district superintendents to ensure that we have a pothole patching schedule done. And I plan to personally go with the senior technical coordinator to work out of some of the the district offices to ensure that work is being done and the work that people say they are doing is being done. Because again, we have to be honest. There are people who are claiming for traveling. There's somebody responsible for ensuring that potholes are reported and subsequently patched. There's somebody who is supposed to report when vegetation is overgrown. There's somebody who is supposed to report when drains are clogged. However, we are still getting reports, and I am as the secretary, I'm still getting reports and phone calls and people meeting me on the road saying, well, this road hasn't been addressed in however long, and this road hasn't been cut in however long. It means that people are not doing their jobs. And we've spoken about productivity, and we've spoken about the importance of supervision. And we have to be honest, everyone probably knows someone working at the Division of Infrastructure, and that person may or may not be doing their job very well. And if the person is not, we also have a responsibility, a civic responsibility, to come down on persons, because if we go to the bank and don't get good service, we are upset. And it's the same thing that should happen when we look at the Division of Infrastructure, that we have to start holding our fellow Tobagonians accountable. So you know that somebody who is supposed to be working is pulling bull during the day when they have a job to do. Let them know that they have a responsibility. And I've spoken about the fact that I'm walking around in the division and after 10 people are eating at their desk and they see nothing wrong with that. And I got a bad name. People complain to my advisor, to my assistant, and whoever else they could complain about. Why the secretary playing thing? Why are you eating by my desk? And those are things that we have to be honest about. And we need to start coming down on people, because when people get paid late, it's some of these same employees of the division who have contributed to that. On the note of late payments, some workers in the division were paid late, and it's something that was addressed. They have been subsequently paid. The reason was that with the changeover of accounts, the bank delivered checks to the division late, so we were unable to prepare payment to the workers. So it was not necessarily a fault of the division on this occasion. What I can say, we have introduced reintroduced a more robust warrant tracking system, and we are looking for ways to close the gaps in terms of lead time or preparation time for the time sheets and pay sheets, so that people can continue to get paid on time. And of course, for that, it means that they also have to give a quality day's work, because at the Division of Infrastructure, we're going with the mantra now, quality works for you. And that's for all of Tobago.
The company, the tenders to go out, you said that there's some shortfall of some
1.75 million
1.75 million tons.
Mm-hmm.
Is it that the staff at the quarry right now, they are incapable of utilizing the facilities to bring the production up to that level?
I would say that the operation model at the quarry currently prohibits us from doing that. For example, a daily rated workers has a particular working hours. Now, if it is the plant starts working, we can't shut off the plant. Workers are then paid overtime for their lunch time, and they cut off at a certain time. Now, the plant can continue running, but then we'll have to pay overtime, double time, and so on. Whereas with a different business model, we can now run a shift system, so that the plant continuously runs and we're able to produce a lot more. So it's the current operational model. As well, we have a lot of, again, because of the collective bargaining agreement, we have a lot of positions that are not necessarily productive to the quarry, but they are on the cadre all the same and seen as necessary support staff. So those are things that we are streamlining now. So you'll find that it's a much leaner operation, and we will be able to operate for a longer time, because there are times when the plant itself operates for about 6 hours, because there's an 8-hour workday, and then there's the time to prepare the plant and get it ready for crushing, so that it becomes a 6-hour period of production, which obviously can't get to where we want it to be.
Thank you for staying with us for the Tobago House of Assembly's Post-Executive Council Media Briefing for the week ending October 21st, 2017.